I have a really good idea.
Yeah?
Every movie that gets released in 2019, they all have to shoot one additional scene. Every movie. It comes after the credits, and it features the lead character of that movie having a short conversation with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. No matter what the movie is. Even a period piece.
Yeah.
Nick Fury has come from the future, or you have the 1800s version of Nick Fury. Yeah. Every movie does this, and I think that would be delightful.
Put out a new Romeo and Juliet. Nick Fury talks to
the corpse of the two young lovers.
It has to be the main character.
He could talk to Friar Lawrence.
He could talk to the mayor of the town.
The conversations could be Avengers related. Lady Bird, you have to join the Avengers. Just does that scream? I've got a bunch of movies that I've never seen before. You don't know what they are. Every episode I'm going to spring one on you. It might be good, it might be bad. We'll watch it and talk about it. Welcome to the basement.
So, on our last episode, Matt gave me the challenge of choosing a movie to celebrate his birthday.
Coming up.
And he said it had to be either from the year 1937 or 2008. Let's see what it is. Matt, I give you the gift of choice.
Oh. What to choose? 1937.
I hope you like astrophysics, Matt, because you're about to see how a star is born.
Oh.
Hey, there you go. Released in 1937, ASIB stars Welcome to the Basement alumna Janet Gaynor. She was in Sunrise as the wife.
Wow.
Yeah. And Wisconsin's own Frederick March.
I like that guy.
A Star is Born would be remade with Judy Garland and James Mason in 1954, and again with Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson in 1976. A fourth version will be released later this year, starring Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. We're going to old Hollywood town, seeing what it's like, seeing how much it's changed and how much it stayed the same. Do you want to see what the other movie was?
Sure.
It would have been another big fat Greek wedding. Mamma Mia!
We just had a big fat Greek wedding, so I'm glad we're going with A Star is Born.
Yeah, this movie is all about a star, and this one is chock full of stars. I thought I would give you a big star.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. There we go.
You were singing a Big Star song earlier when you were here.
That's called a tell. So grab onto your dreams and head over to the Hollywood that we call the old leather couch for the 1937 William Wellman classic, A Star is Born.
Action! Esther Blodgett loves the pictures.
I was a moving picture tonight.
Mice, that's what it was. Just a lot of mice.
It was a movie about sled dogs.
You shouldn't be allowed to go to him at all if you're asking me.
You should be locked in a dark room for the rest of your life. She has a dream of going to Hollywood and becoming a star someday. Her Aunt Maddie hates this idea.
I've seen her making faces in the mirror and talking to herself.
I'd want to go anywhere else other than this house.
What would you do if you did go to Hollywood?
I'd be a stage carpenter. No one thinks about all the people who work in the industry.
I'm going out and have a real life. I'm going to be somebody.
But her grandmother believes in Esther's dreams. She gives her encouragement, and she gives her money and says, go to Hollywood.
Oh, I can't take your money.
Why not?
Because it's Confederate money. They don't accept it anymore.
Grandma takes Esther to the train station,
Goodbye, Granny. Goodbye.
and off she goes to Hollywood land.
Do you want to go home now?
Are you death? Are you come to take me home?
Esther arrives in Tinseltown. Ah!
Aw, man.
I'm so glad they changed it from Man's Chinaman Theater.
Yeah.
That's not cool at all. She sees the footprints of all the stars in front of the Chinese theater, including Norman Maine. Yeah, the Norman Maine. No cowboys. What does that mean?
Their only missionary position is allowed. She gets to a ratty hotel.
And she tries to find work as an extra, but nobody is hiring. She meets Danny, an aspiring director and human slab of beef.
He knows the ropes, don't you, Danny?
Sure, I've had him around my neck for years.
Oh, how you doing there, lady?
Andy Devine looks like Andy Griffith with a thyroid problem.
And they go out for some drinks.
Having a good time, commiserating.
They become friends. Danny and Esther go to the Hollywood Bowl. Norman Maine is there as well.
And he's drunk.
Sit down, you dope.
I wish that gesture never went out of fashion. Before the paparazzi, they were known as the pre-parazzi. And in the future, the post-parazzi. He gets in a bit of a surly mood when a photographer wants to take his picture.
He's going full Sonny Corleone.
And a fight erupts.
Classic Norman Maine.
Danny gets a job as an assistant director, but he can't get Esther work as an extra. What he can do, though, is get her a one-night gig as a waitress at a big Hollywood party.
And if you're there, maybe they'll notice you.
Particularly with that mousy hair.
Why does that man need a tray? You can just... He's a human tray. She walks around trying to impress all the bigwigs.
With her acting ability, or her crappy impersonations. Whatever you want to call it.
But would you like a little hors d'oeuvre?
Whoa!
Yeah.
I know.
You're a prostitute. I heard you say the word whore while looking sexy. Oliver Niles is a producer. He runs a studio.
Norman Maine makes an appearance.
All of them.
Norm! He's been causing his studio some grief because he keeps getting arrested and doing drunken things because he's a drinker. And his girlfriend isn't happy with him either.
Hey, Norman, I need to talk to you about your drinks. That's a great idea. Let's talk about drinks.
Scotch and soda.
Make it a quintuple.
Come on.
The actor's from Wisconsin. You need to pour him a decent pour.
The grosses are going down.
Are they playing acoustic pinball?
Analog pinball.
Analog pinball. Norman meets Esther and he's quite taken with her.
Mind if I help?
Myself too, more scotch and soda?
Well, tell me.
Do you appreciate how much I'm helping? Look how much I'm helping.
You say I'm drunk, but I haven't broken...
They're gonna think I've done it, you sot.
Why are you here instead of with the rest of the guests?
I'm glamorous and dressed like a space woman.
Let's get out of here. And let's get out of here, dishes.
Oh, yes, they are.
He's Norman Maine. He can do whatever he wants. Including drive. Norman... We made it home, and only 3 pedestrians were killed.
Death Race, 1937.
You have something that I like, and I have connections. I'm going to get you a screen test.
You mind if I take just one more look?
Esther is so excited and nervous to finally be on a Hollywood set.
Screen test happens. It goes pretty well.
Sorry, I couldn't hold it.
Matt, I'm talking here.
You may not be the most glamorous actress, but I think audiences will like you. And he gives her a film contract.
Nothing you really want is ever given away free. You have to pay for it. And usually with your heart.
So, Kalima demands.
She then goes and sees Matt Libby, the press agent. And he spins a yarn about her background.
Are you sure there's no Russian in your family?
Positive.
That's a shame.
It's too bad. Communists are very popular these days. It is the 1930s, and it's never going to come back to bite us in the ass.
But that name...
Esther Victoria Blodgett.
When he says it, it sounds like profanity. We need to come up with a new name. Victoria Estes. That should be her screen name.
How about Vicky?
Oh, I think that's terribly cute.
Let's see, Vicky. Vicky what? Vicky. Pronounced Vicky.
Everything that guy says sounds like profanity.
Mr. Lester. Vicky Lester.
Oh, I like that.
Say it.
Vicky Lester.
Say it again.
Vicky Lester.
Sing it!
Vicky Lester.
Vicky Lester.
Vicky Lester.
Vicky Molester.
There's a little training montage where people give her a makeover and train her to do actor things.
She's going places. She's at the commissary one day
Where she's rehearsing her line for an upcoming film.
a familiar face walks in. It's Norman, and he's there for his hangover cure.
Neighbor, bless you. How soon are you and I going to be married, huh?
I don't know.
As soon as my breasts stop growing.
Acme? No, Smith ain't in.
My DTs have become very whimsical.
I've got a part. It's only one line, but it's in the picture.
Well, blow me down.
What?
No, wait. Scrap one of those words.
Norman thinks she deserves more than that, so he convinces Oliver to cast her in his upcoming film.
Vicky Lester's getting second billing in this big old movie.
There's a test screening of the film.
First comment on the card, word spinets.
Do you think we were noticed?
By no one.
They're much too busy filling out their comment cards.
I've loved you all my life.
And before my life, when I was prenatal.
That's when my life began.
The end. Everyone loves Vicky. Norman, he was fine, but Vicky Lester...
She's about to become a...
It's in the bag, neatly tied up with beautiful pink ribbons.
Hey, watch your language. Oh, sorry, you're just saying normal words. Whenever I hear the name Trocadero, I just imagine they're going into a giant alligator. Norman takes Vicky out on a date
to a very romantic boxing match.
And he casually proposes marriage to her. No, I could never marry you because you drink.
Suppose I quit drinking.
Yes?
Suppose I sprout wings and start flying around.
And he actually does. He stops drinking and becomes responsible.
We are going to be married.
Libby's really excited.
America's dream lovers slipped quietly through the portals of holy matrimony.
Please! Your language is just... It's not appropriate.
They just sneak off to the suburbs and get married at the city hall.
They decide to take a honeymoon out in the wilderness.
Have I got time for a shower before dinner?
Bet you didn't think you'd be seeing a nude Frederick March in this movie, did you? His soapy, steamy shower scene is coming up.
And he gets stuck in this contraption. It's crazy. Back in Hollywood, they have this huge house with a huge pool. It's a starter place.
Ah, the producer.
Max Bialystock.
I'm wearing a cardboard belt. Vicky's career is on the rise, but Norman's is not. He's been getting lots of bad reviews.
Look, Oliver.
That prop is really distracting me. What does the penguin do? Do it. Do it. Oh.
I'd take up smoking if I could have one of those things. But eventually, he loses his contract. Now Norman is kind of a homebody.
I fixed a little snack with my own lily white hands.
Has something not been explained here? Has she joined a cult? Oh, the lice.
Norman makes some enormous sandwiches.
I'm afraid my mouth's not quite big enough.
Epic sandwich scene.
It's a package for you.
She opens it up, and it's the perfect sandwich.
He's feeling depressed. What could possibly cheer him up? Oh, I know. Liquor.
I'll fix me a little drink.
Vicky's nominated for an Oscar.
We now pay honor to the ladies, or rather to one lady.
The other four are garbage.
This is the tribute of our fellow workers.
The proletariat.
Again, the fact that half of us are communism's never gonna come back.
Communisms. Vicky wins, but her speech is disrupted by a drunken Norman.
Now I want to make a speech.
I'm gonna let you finish.
I want a statue for the worst performance of the year.
The Razzies. He thought of it right here. They can go to Stallone on a regular occasion. They can go to Adam Sandler whenever he does his own work. Flopping his arms around, he accidentally hits Vicky.
Somebody give me a drink.
I want a bucket of scotch and a droplet of soda.
Miss Lester, if I may talk shop, you are a knockout.
Please don't say knockout. It reminds me of that time at the Oscars.
Norman realizes that he's got a big problem, and he goes to rehab, or whatever they called it back in the 30s. An exhaustion hospital.
This is Cuddles, Oliver, my social secretary. We go everywhere together.
And we cuddle every night.
They even have iron bars in the windows to keep out the draft.
And they have iron shavings in the food to give us internal bleeding.
We have a little small part for you in a movie coming up.
It is not exactly the lead.
And it involves you wearing a monkey costume.
Well, Cuddles?
Cuddles, call me by your name, and I'll call you by mine. A newly sober Norman goes to the racetrack to have a soda pop.
How I hate to run into these has-beens. They give me the creeps.
Sorry, Edward Everett Horton. It will never happen to you. Libby shows up and starts tormenting the guy.
Now that you've retired from the hurly-burly of the silver screen.
Dig deeper there, Libby.
It's nice to have somebody in the family making a living.
I'm gonna do my best to drive you back to the bottle because it's fun.
They get into fisticuffs.
And he starts drinking again. Norman's gone for 4 days. Esther is out of her mind with worry.
Yellow!
He's down at the drunk tank, and he's going to night court.
I don't feel so good.
I didn't ask you how you feel. I asked you how you plead.
Guilty, I guess.
Oh, Foster Brooks, you're delightful.
Plain drunk. Picked up on Brooklyn Avenue. Given treatment at receiving hospital.
It's Rickety Crickets from It's Always Sunny.
The judge tells him, you're a menace. I'm going to put you away. Vicky says, I'll take responsibility for him. Esther's going to leave the movies to take care of Norman. Norman takes a little swim, and he does not return.
A few days later, his body is found Vicky goes to the funeral.
His former fans and former friends are just as cruel to him in death as they were in life.
She freaks out. I'm serious. I do quit Hollywood.
She's gonna go back home. She's packing everything up when who should show up but Granny. Granny says, "Don't you remember those inspiring words I told you all those years ago?"
Tragedy is the test of courage.
And comedy is tragedy plus time? Just wait a few years. You'll be laughing about your dead drunken husband.
I never knew Norman Maine.
You didn't invite me to the wedding, which I took poorly. You can't give up your dream.
Great point, Granny. I'm gonna show you how a star is reborn.
Her new movie premieres. It's a big hit. And there's Grandma. She gets to talk on the radio.
Maybe some of you people listening in dream about coming to Hollywood.
And I just want to say that Il Duce, Mr. Mussolini, has a lot of good ideas.
Throughout the world, your fans are hoping that you'll say a few words to them.
Attention world.
This is Mrs. Norman Maine.
A star is born, and another star is killed off. Turns out that LP you chose was weirdly prophetic.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm just a fan of the album The Fine Art of Surfacing. I had no idea how appropriate this was.
I like the fact that they addressed the elephant on set of that she's kind of a plain Jane, and that they explain why she's being given this contract. They sort of agonize about trying to spruce up her image. I found that to work.
Yeah.
In a way that I didn't think it was going to work.
The Oscar that Vicky wins was, in fact, the Oscar that Janet Gaynor won at the very first Oscars.
Oh, wow.
She brought a prop in from home.
The downfall of Norman Maine, I think, was realistically portrayed, but it was rather sanitary.
Yeah.
You know, we don't get the dirt of, say, a Valley of the Dolls type situation. It would take nearly 10 years later for The Lost Weekend to come out and you really see the horrors of alcoholism.
The sweat.
Yeah.
The bats.
The bats. Let's talk about the color of this.
This was one of the first major color movies.
I don't think the color looks that great.
But I'm happy it's not in black and white. It just seemed a lot more concrete.
This isn't a Hollywood fairy tale.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a very realistic story.
And
so color puts that forward more vividly.
Yeah, and that makes it different than every other movie you've ever seen, which is in black and white.
I think the saddest form of suicide is when someone swims out into the ocean and they just don't stop swimming. It's very emotionally devastating. Just the idea that they really have to commit to it. And you got a lot of time to think before you go under. Ugh, gives me the willies.
Yeah, it's something you have to be strong enough to make it out far enough where you're too weak to swim back. They had to do this on purpose. There's always water tormenting Norman. There's comic scenes like the scene where he's stuck in the shower, which is like the trash compactor scene in Star Wars. It's so cramped. The presence of the swimming pool in the background when he's having the heart-to-heart with Oliver.
I think he's tormented by liquids in general.
And what's his name? Maine, which is another word for the ocean. We're sailing the Maine today.
Or water main.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's that artistic or poetic of a movie. It seems like it's just a straight up melodrama. But someone's thinking about something here.
Sure.
How did you feel about Frederick March's performance in this?
Understated.
And yet at the same time, a little bit theatrical. So that it's not the most realistic drunk, but it's kind of how you want to think a drunk is.
I really like the moment when he's at the bar at the party where he first meets her and he's ordering a drink and he's just like, come on. He has a little desperate communication with the bartender, like, hurry up, this is going too slow, I need this.
He picks up the glass as the soda's being put into it.
It's a role that you could easily overdo, and he doesn't do that.
It was a little over 20 years after Birth of a Nation. Hollywood hadn't even been around for 20 years. And yet there's so much already that's iconic. Man's Chinese Theater and the footprints in front of it.
Cafe Trocadero, the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, the Oscars. They didn't need to explain, are you going to the Trocadero? It's the hottest spot in town. They don't have to say it because everyone in the 30s knows it.
Because of those press agents and all their hard work promoting all of these Tinseltown hooty-doos.
Yes, all the Libbies out there. That guy stuck around for a long time. He was in Heart to Heart in the 80s.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so when they met, it was Moida.
Yeah.
Industry-wide migration. That's a strange thing that would happen. Everyone moving west to get away from Edison. And because the light was better.
Yeah, well, the weather, too.
Yeah,
shoot outside year-round.
Mm-hmm.
A Star is Born. Have you seen it? Perhaps you should. But for now, you get to see Seen It.
Seen it!
Matthew Crook writes, I'd like to give a shout-out to Murder on the Orient Express, a beautiful movie which did justice to the book. It's worth seeing for Poirot's astonishing mustache. Seen it.
The finest mustache in Europe. Not seen it.
I believe it's technically mustaches. He's got at least 3 going on right there. I saw this on New Year's Day on the big screen, and it was a very good New Year's Day movie. It's got spectacle, it's got beautiful photography. It's not a great movie.
Yeah?
A bit too preachy and messagey and a little too modern in spots. And I think I don't like the story itself.
Okay.
I think the story is just too overly fussy.
I have a friend who just complains about this movie and every version of it and the book. You know what? Someone had to do a mystery that has this exact ending, and thank God it was Agatha Christie, because she figured out how to do it.
I'm a little disappointed that he's going ahead and doing Death on the Nile, which they tease at the end of the movie.
Oh, really?
And I guess you got to do something while you're killing time until you're old enough to play Lear.
And at the end of Death on the Nile, Nick Fury shows up. Poirot, we need you. Someone murdered
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, yeah. Samuel Kaufman writes, best new movie, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Probably because of that reaction.
I was shell-shocked after that movie. I hated being in that movie theater. And that's exactly what the movie wanted me to do. This is why people get upset at movie critics. Because they're like, this movie is a brilliant movie that hurts a lot. And all they see is 4 stars.
Yeah.
Craig Johnson. And then they go see the movie. Why did you do that to me?
Sure.
It's a 0-star movie. Well, no, it's a 4-star movie because it does that to you. It's straight up sadistic in how it treats the audience.
I'm just not interested in going there. The Lobster was right at my threshold of darkness. And if this goes beyond that, I'm out. Luke Bentley, my favorite was Brigsby Bear. That movie had no business being as good as it was. Seen it.
Seen it.
I think that's a very good way to put it. That movie didn't have any business to be as good as it was.
I was very charmed by that movie.
I liked the fact that it wasn't Room. It's not so much about someone who is imprisoned and suddenly is free and has to accustom themselves to the world. It's a little bit that. Yeah. It's more about this odd human taking this fake thing and turning it into a real thing.
Also, it's about everyone who is a fan of something and that thing gets canceled before it's solved. For 20 years, I was like, what happened to Dale Cooper? It's basically taking that situation and making it as absurd as possible. You're the only fan of this show. You're the only person who exists in this world. Mm-hmm. And how do you make that come back? Ian DeLuca, The Meyerowitz Stories.
New and selected.
It was very much a character study since there wasn't much of a plot to speak of, but all the performances were very, very good.
Noah Baumbach. I try my best to like your movies. I try. I want to read you something.
Yeah.
You'll probably disagree with this.
Oh, I'm already disagreeing.
This is my little Rotten Tomatoes blurb about this movie that would appear right next to the splat symbol. Noah Baumbach continues to tell the often infuriating tales of the loser gentsia, the learned and hapless sad sacks of New York City, and their boundless incapacity to simply function as human beings. Frustrated by this movie to no end. I hated it.
I love the movie, not because of who they are, but of how they act and how they react. I found that the movie was top to bottom filled with true moments. You have this great Adam Sandler performance. He plays the piano, he sings a song, it's great.
Greta Gerwig, in her directorial debut, paints a better portrait of family dysfunction than Noah Baumbach ever has.
Yeah.
She's better at being Noah Baumbach than Noah Baumbach is.
Well, she spends a lot of time with the guy.
Looking for something to do on the internet? Go to our website, welcometothebasementshow.com. You can see all of our episodes, and there are PayPal donation buttons where you can click to support this show. A one-time or a rolling monthly donation.
Have you?
I'll tell you who has. Mitchell, who says, would you guys be interested in watching the music videos of Korean pop boy groups BTS and EXO? The ways in which they tell their stories through their music videos is perhaps unique in that genre.
I just want to say, I've been pushing Matt on this for months. And he says no.
Liar. I'm probably not interested in listening to boy groups of any type, but your comment does make me curious. I might check these guys out. I'm also curious, are you their manager? Thank you for the donation, and thank you for the comment.
We will have to investigate this.
If you want to know who the rest of our donors are and see the contents of our mail crate, you can watch Unboxing, which comes out this coming Friday. I have been very starstruck by today's movie, A Star is Born.
Happy birthday, Matt.
And now, watch this.
I'm going to take a test tomorrow, and Norman Main's helping me do it.
I'm taking one, too. Garble's assisting me.
Goebbels?
Esther Victoria Blodgett.